your brother, my brother, Dr. Umar Johnson, the Prince, in the building. What's going on, bro?
Peace and black power, brother.
How you
Glad to
doing,
be
bro?
back. I'm doing well, doing well.
Welcome
You said
back
the
to the field.
23rd is actually the 24th, Wednesday
Oh,
the 24th.
24th. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. 24th is a good day. That the 24th is my birthday in April.
Oh,
So
happy birthday. Happy birthday. Yes, sir.
So
yes,
yeah,
sir.
so I'm excited, man. I'm excited to have you back on the platform. Welcome back to Louisville, man. Welcome back.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. It's been about 6 years since my
Yeah, it's been
last
too
visit.
long. Yeah, it's been too long,
It's
bro.
been too long. It's been too long.
You know what, though? You are back at the right time, too, though. You are back at the right time. So real quick, though, I want to get right into the book. Tell us about this new book that you wrote called Black Parent Advocate. Tell us about that.
Yes, sir. Black Parent Advocate is a 550+ page resource manual for Black parents. It is comprised of 2 parts. The first part is a collection of letters that parents can use to address a myriad of topics that are affecting their children in the school system. So when I consult with parents, when I advocate, most of the time, I'm teaching them how to appropriately respond to the school's insistence that the child be medicated or special educated or adjudicated. So our parents need to know how to respond to the school's demands. And so the first half of the book teaches our parents how to respond. If they want your child tested, this is the letter you send them. If they want your child medicated, this is the letter that you send them. If they are refusing your mentally gifted evaluation, this is the letter you send them. If you don't agree with the school psychologist's conclusion, this is the letter you send them. So I talk a little bit about each problem. I give some background, and then I give them the letter. That's the first half of the book, part 1. Part 2 is I teach our parents how to read, interpret, and understand some of the major documents that the school will be giving them. So part 1 comprises the documents we will give to the school. Part 2 comprises the documents the school give to us, such as a behavior plan, an IEP, a psychological evaluation. So I teach parents how to read them, how to understand them, because when our parents get a psychological evaluation report, they don't know what that means. They don't know how to interpret that. They don't know how to evaluate that. So I'm teaching them how to evaluate it from a Black point of view.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I know you've talked about this before, Dr. Umar, about our children being in a white learning system. Talk about that again. What are some of the challenges, especially now that we are in COVID and many of our Black children are doing NTI learning and how they're adapting to that? But speak on that specifically, how you see Black children dealing with this COVID, and we're getting even further behind when it comes to the education bar.
It's interesting you asked that question, because a lot of people try to convince me to turn the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy, which we're still renovating at the moment, but they try to convince me to turn that into an online platform. I refuse to do it. I'm very much an old-fashioned, in-your-face, Booker T. Washington, Mary McLeod Bethune type of an educator. I refuse to do it. Now our parents and educators are beginning to see why Dr. Umar refused to make FDMG an online academy, because we're seeing with this COVID situation how our children have difficulty paying attention, focusing, being invested in the lesson. We see how the teachers are not able to keep their attention. The teachers were already boring. They had a difficult enough time paying attention in the classroom. And now you're going to take them out the classroom, give them a laptop, and expect them to pay attention. It's not working. It's a total disaster. The only reason why online schooling ever became popular in the first place is because it is cost efficient. When you run an online school, you don't have to worry about lunch. You don't have to worry about school buses. You don't have to worry about recess. You don't have to worry about paying all the teachers. You don't have to have a full administrative team. So it's about saving money. It's not about properly educating our children. And we need to understand that the solution to the proper education of Black children is for them to be taught by their own community, okay? And that their own community should have their own schools. Our greatest embarrassment as Africans in America is the fact that we have not created yet 402 years under white supremacy, even longer before white supremacy, we have not created an independent school system for our own children. That is the eternal disgrace of the black man and woman in America. We spend $4 billion a year on alcohol, $2 billion a year on Nike, $4 billion a year on children's cologne. Black men, $30 million on cosmetics. Black women, $30 billion on hair and cosmetics, $700 billion on chicken, beef, pork, and turkey. How do you explain being in the 21st century, 400 years later, with all of the maladies that our children suffer in the school system, and we still refuse to build our own schools for our own children?
Wow. And that's what you're on a mission to do, building this school that you have now. That's what you're on a mission to correct that. But don't you feel like it starts with one, though? Like if people see you do it, then a domino effect to happen, other black educators to step up to the plate and start to do that. Is that why it's so important for what you're doing?
I do think that once the FDMG Academy is open, it will inspire others to follow that path. But at the same time, we should not have to wait for Dr. Umar to do one, because you have other independent schools that have existed and been built long before me. So it's no excuse. We have nothing but educators. We have more educators than anything else in the black community, professionally speaking. So it's no excuse why we haven't done more for our children. I say all the time, if you really want to see how much of people really respect themselves, you watch how they treat their children. There is no excuse for us not to have our own schools for our children, which is related to a larger problem, and that is that the American African does not want to take responsibility for his or her destiny. We're the only non-white people in America who want no financial responsibility to change their condition. Whenever we talk about our problems, it's all about we need to vote. Whenever we talk about our problems, it's all about we need reparations. Whenever we talk about our problems, it's always about we need to protest. Stop all that. Before you can talk about external reparations, you have to talk about internal reparations. What do we owe ourselves? What do we owe our people? What do we owe our community? What do we owe our ancestors? Don't tell me what the white man owes me. Tell me what you owe us.
I love that. I love that. So let's get into it, since you brought up reparations. All right, let's get into it. All right. So there seems to be this big rip and divide between the ADOS community and the African diaspora community regarding reparations, and the African diaspora being left out of reparations. What do you feel is the main divide between that conversation that's being had now between the ADOS community and the African immigrants, as I'll call them?
Well, first of all,
studying that.
First of all, of the 50 million Africans in America, only about 3 million are African immigrants. America is not in love with African people. And most of those African immigrants are here on an education visa or an employment visa or a visitation visa. It is very difficult to get your American citizenship as an African in America. That's why you only have 3 million. Africa is a continent of over 1 billion people, and you only have 3 million. So clearly America is not in love with the African immigrant. The problem that I take with these organizations is that they are playing upon the intergenerational self-hatred that we have had being African as long as we've been in America. If you want to find fault with another group who you feel has undermined Black progress in America, why haven't you named the feminist movement? Why haven't you named the LGBTQ? Why haven't you named the non-African immigrants? You haven't spoken about the Italians. You haven't spoken about the European Jews. You haven't spoken about the Irish. They have taken more from Black progress over the past 100 years than the African immigrant. The LGBTQ has taken more from Black progress than the African immigrant. The white woman and every other woman has taken more from Black progress than the African immigrant. To me, it is very cowardly to blame the lowest man on the totem pole because you're too afraid to go after the real groups who are responsible for undermining Black progress. And putting that to the side is harmful, because we are at a time right now with the quadricentennial that occurred 2 years ago, 1619 to 2019. It represented a time where Africans around the world are beginning to come together. The president of Ghana declared 2019 a year of return. You had other African heads of state saying we want our kith and kin in the diaspora to come home. You had Jamaica and other islands reaching out to the American African. So at a time when the vision of the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, in the vision of Kwame Nkrumah, in the vision of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz and all the great Pan-Africanists is finally being realized, you get these YouTubian opportunists. You get these YouTubian opportunists who wake up, come out of nowhere, having no history of grassroots struggle. Let me say that again. The founders of these movements have no history of grassroots struggle. They are YouTubian opportunists trying to drive a wedge between Africans in the East and Africans in the West. And the reason is so ridiculous. And that is so we can more effectively beg for reparation crumbs from our slave master. Show me why it is scientifically necessary for you to disidentify from being an African so you can beg for crumbs from your slave master. It makes no sense. So you will call yourself a slave, but you won't call yourself an African. You will call yourself an American, but you won't call yourself an African. One group calls themselves slaves. The other group call themselves American. Neither one of them really wants to be black.
Okay, you get into it. So just so for healing purposes, what would be your message to the ADOS community?
I don't have a message, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why, though. That man whose picture hangs behind me,
Marcus Garvey.
The Honorable Marcus Garvey.
Yes, sir.
His example will stand the test of time. So I don't spend a lot of time on ADOS. I don't spend a lot of time on FBA because I know the reason why they exist.
Yeah.
And I know who brought them forward. And I know how serious the people are who brought them forward. I know they're just temporary opportunist schemes. So I'm not concerned about that. 100 years from now, that flag will still be flying, the red, black, and green. Not the ones these opportunists are making up. So I don't give them a lot of attention because I have so much faith in our people to raise their consciousness to the point where they can understand, understand, and overstand what they really supposed to be about. And that is about revolutionary Pan-African nationalism. It is all of us or none of us. We rise together or we don't rise at all. It is all for one and one for all. It is Garveyism or get the hell away from me. Wow.
Powerful, Dr. Umar. Powerful, powerful. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit because I know this is an important question. A lot of people in Louisville want to know from you, and this is something that's very important to them as well. I know you haven't been here in 6 years. And, of course, a lot has changed in Louisville, Kentucky in 6 years, especially the unrest that we saw in 2020 as it relates to the Breonna Taylor situation. As you were on the outside looking in, how did you feel about that situation, knowing that you had been to this community, you know the people in this community, and you know the needs of this community? How did you feel looking at us going through that unrest, that civil unrest last summer?
Okay. And I'm going to respond to that question with a slightly broader angle.
Okay.
In that, when we look at the protests, which I refer to as the 2020 protests for justice, that was triggered by the murders of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery, I was disgusted because this was the most significant, comprehensive, protracted Black protest since the Dr. King assassination protest of '68. Black people had not protested that long, that qualitatively, for that amount of time since the Dr. King assassination protests. We wasted an opportunity to force the Black agenda on the American table for public discussion. We made 3 mistakes with the 2020 protests for justice. Mistake number 1, we had no clearly articulated list of demands. We were protesting without telling the government what it was we wanted specifically. Are you following me there? So we marching, but what are you marching for? What specifically, we understand you reacting to the murder, as you should. But after you react, we now have to create some political structure and agenda. That never happened. In other words, we never say all the police in the Black community need to look like the Black community. We never said the unjustified murder of an unarmed African should automatically be considered a hate crime. We never say that whenever you murder a Black person unjustifiably, you are automatically charged and must be proven in a court of law that you are innocent and will never again be allowed to police in the Black community the rest of your life. We never put no demands. We didn't talk about miseducation. We didn't talk about gentrification. We didn't talk about police genocide. We didn't talk about access to wealth. We didn't talk about massing. The issues that matter to Black America, which largely ignored during the time that we protested. So that's number one. You had no plan. Number two, you had no identified spokespersons. You didn't necessarily need to have an identified leader because they would either kill him or co-opt him or her. But you needed spokespersons to articulate the agenda. And as a result of us not having no spokespersons, guess what happened? The Democratic Party swooped in and exploited the 2020 protests for justice into a Joe Biden voters drive. They turned the whole thing into, we got to get rid of Trump and we got to put Biden in office, although Biden's record in office is no better than Trump's was. You don't let the Democratic Party exploit your pain so they can get people elected. So number one, no plan. Number two, no spokespersons. And number three, and probably the most significant of the three, we allowed non-Africans to invade and to ultimately co-opt the protests themselves. There was one research statistic that I read which stated that only 1 out of every 6 protesters were Black. Only 1 out of every 6 protesters were Black. How do you let non-Africans invade your protests and then take them over? And so when the protest was over, what did Donald Trump sign into law? The Hispanic Prosperity Initiative. The outcome of the protests was the Hispanic Prosperity Initiative. The outcome of the protest was presidential candidate, now President Joe Biden, saying we can have a conversation about reparations, but we have to include the Native Americans. What else came out of the protests? The Supreme Court had made a decision on LGBT rights as they relate to the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. So everybody got something out of the protests except Black people. And it was our fault. Because one of the eternal mistakes that we make, that the most honorable Marcus Garvey has tried to teach us about 100 years ago, and that is the essential need to struggle alone, to fight alone, to stand alone. Whatever is to be done for Black people must be done by Black people. But because of our self-hatred, and because of our low African self-esteem, because of our need to be accepted by our oppressor, we don't want to do anything by ourselves. We want to hold hands with everybody, even though they don't want to hold hands with us.
Now, excuse me if I'm being sensitive because I'm from Louisville, all right? But I agree with you on the last 2 points. Number one, where we had no clear demands. We did have those demands. Those demands just were not met. But we can speak about that a little bit more when you get in town and have a conversation with the people in the community. But we did have those demands that were not met. But I agree. I think the fact that we had no clear leader, I agree that hurt us. And I agree that we allowed non-African people to invade the movement because we never had numbers when it came to our people. Louisville, we never had that. So I agree with you on those 2 points, definitely.
And but here's what we got to understand real quickly.
Okay.
White people outnumber Black people in America 1 to 6.
For sure.
1 to 6. So if you allow them into your struggle and you don't control how many of them participate, they automatically co-opted just by virtue of the strength of their numbers. And that's why we have to learn how to fight alone. Also, when you look at our history with coalitions with other races, They always get more out of the coalition than we do. There's a rule of political organization. It's a rule that I came up with, but I'm sure some of our ancestors spoke to it. Disorganized groups have no business forming alliances with more organized groups. Are you following me?
Yes.
If you are disorganized, you have no business seeking a coalition with a more organized group, because they will exploit you by virtue of your disorganization. Get organized first before you ever seek a coalition with a non-African entity.
Wow, get organized. Now that's some organizing for you. I love that. Once again, people, welcome to the Real Talk with T-Made. We are here with Pan-Africanist. We call him the Prince of Pan-Africanism, yes, Dr. Umar Johnson. He will be here February 24th, right?
Yes,
February
sir.
24th?
Rooftop Grill.
Rooftop Grill.
414 Oak Street.
14 Oak Street.
414.
414 Oak Street. And we be doing a book signing as well, right?
Well, it's going to be a book signing only. It won't be a lecture because of the COVID.
Oh, so man.
I'm going to have to come back once.
Yeah, you got to come back, brother.
I'm going to definitely come back.
On point. You got to
definitely come back because
okay, you got a little bit more time. I got a couple more questions.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to speak to you about, the election. Mm-hmm. In particular, I want to speak to you about Kamala Harris being the first woman of color elected as vice president. And how should Black people respond, or should they be responding to that? Should that be inspiration for us? And we understand that she's not foundational Black. We understand that, but she is a person of color. So in your opinion, how should Black people be responding to that?
Okay. Well, first of all,
our young girls.
I don't deal in foundational Black. I deal in African.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'm just trying to be politically correct.
I understand.
You get me?
To me, it's Africans versus everybody. I don't get into the tribalism and all these little schisms that these YouTube opportunists have come up with.
Got you.
Here's the issue. For me, I judge all Africans by two criteria. Number one, and this is criteria to be an African. You must be biologically a member of the family, and you must psychologically pledge allegiance to that family. We know Kamala Harris is biologically African. Okay. Whether that's through one parent or two parents, she's biologically African. She has the DNA of the continent in her. Okay. But I see very little proof of her being psychologically African, which is to say that she is unapologetically African in her declaration of her Africanity. It was brought out that she was sworn into the Senate as an East Indian. Mm-hmm. You understand? Yeah. So if you were sworn into the Senate as an East Indian, now you want to be African-American for purposes of garnering the Black vote for the Democratic Party. That sounds like you're only being Black as an opportunity to capitalize on Black people's thirstiness to see somebody who looks like them in the White House. I don't see proof of her being psychologically African that is identifying with us and our struggle. That's what matters most for me. I give you another example, not to get off topic. The brother, what is his name? Daniel Kikuya.
Daniel Cameron.
No. I'm speaking of the actor who's playing Fred Hampton in the upcoming.
Oh, yeah, Daniel Kaur. Yeah, Daniel
exactly.
Kaur. Yeah.
It's the same thing with him. I don't know much about the brother, so I cannot judge him. Mm-hmm. But I would want to know, what is his position on Pan-Africanism? Mm-hmm. And does he see us as his brothers or sisters? Or are you another tribalist from the UK who comes over here identifying as a Black British, seeing yourself as different from you and I? Because if he sees himself as different from you and I, then you have no business playing Fred Hampton. Do you understand? It's just like the sister who played Harriet Tubman. A lot of people took an issue with that. They said she's not ADOS and she's not this and that. And I said, well, those are not my definitions. I don't use that. I'm a Pan-Africanist, so it's one family. I don't do tribalism. I don't do African tribalism. I'm not going to do African-American tribalism. She's an African biologically.
Gotcha.
Now, psychologically, does she identify with the race? In other words, I didn't have an issue with her playing Harriet Tubman. I don't have an issue with Daniel playing Fred if they see themselves as Harriet Tubman and Fred Hampton, if they see themselves as being kin in kin with other American Africans, but if they endorse tribalism, if they have their own version of ADOS in the UK, then they have no business playing our ancestors. It's no different than if Dr. Umar goes to Africa and I play Nelson Mandela or Robert Sobukwe or Kwame Nkrumah or Patrice Lumumba or Sekou Touré or Julius Nyerere or Didin Kamathi or Amilcar Cabral. I see myself as an African.
Yes.
So I can play that because that's family. But if I go to Africa saying I'm an African American, I'm not African, I left nothing in Africa, I'm an ADOS and all this other nonsense, I have no business playing ancestors from the continent. So I like to find out where people are psychologically, because being biologically Black, that's not enough. You have to be psychologically Black. And that's not just for the immigrant. That's for homegrown American Africans too.
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas is a homegrown American African, but he don't psychologically identify with us. I would argue Barack Obama doesn't psychologically identify with us. I can name brothers and sisters who are the descendants of our forebears who survived the Ma'afa who don't identify with the people. It's about identifying with the people. That's what's most important with me.
Can that identity for Kamala reach into her HBCU, aka ties? Could it reach into that, Dr. Umar?
It has to be greater than that, because when she was a child, by virtue of socialization and the need to fit in and to survive her college years as an HBCU student, she would have naturally acted Black, played Black, joined the Black sorority. It's no different than a white kid going to a HBCU. They're going to go to the dances. They're going to join the band. They're going to join the fraternity and the sorority. That don't make you psychologically African. That is just a stage in your identity development. That's all it was. It's no different than the white kid who listens to gangster rap and wears all the Black popular clothing and plays basketball and dates the white girls as a teenager. Excuse me, dates the Black girls as a teenager. And you run into him 15 years later. Now he's 40 years old and he's the district attorney locking up every Black man he can find in Louisville. You see the difference?
Yeah.
A stage in identity development should not be confused with one's permanent political frame of reference.
Got you. Powerful, Dr. Umar, powerful. Okay, I got one last question for you, okay? And we definitely want to keep reminding people that you will be here on February 24th. Where again? Tell the people again where you'll be at.
Rooftop Grill.
Rooftop Grill.
Black-owned restaurant.
Black-owned restaurant.
414 Oak Street.
1414 Oak Street.
No, 414.
Yeah, you right. We got to get that right, though.
I'm sorry, 414.
No problem. No problem. Let's in closing, let's talk about what happened at the Capitol building.
Okay.
Last month.
Okay.
How did you dissect that? Because I know you had a lot to say about that. How did you dissect that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And just before I answer that, let me give your listeners my number in case they want to text me for the flyer for the book signing. And they can text me at 215-989-9858. That's 215-989-9858. Or they can email me at drumarjohnson@yahoo.com or through the website, drumarjohnson.com. And let me just give a little plug that although I will be in Louisville Wednesday the 24th at the Rooftop Grill, 414 Oak Street, the very next day I will be in Cincinnati, Ohio, just up the road from you guys, on Thursday the 25th. And I have both events on the same flyer. Gotcha. Now, with regard to...
Hold on real quick. What about the special education drop-in clinic?
I'm glad you said that. Both book signings will also double as a special ed drop-in clinic. Okay. So any parent in the state of Kentucky, any parent in the state of Ohio, or anywhere else, I'm a Pan-Africanist, so I could care where you come from. If you have questions about your child, you want me to look at the evaluation, you want me to look at the IEP, you got questions about the diagnosis, ADHD, behavior, autism, learning disabilities, medication, change of placement, anything at all involving mental health or education for our children, they can stop in from 2 to 8 Wednesday the 24th in Louisville, Rooftop Grill, or the 25th, Thursday, in Cincinnati, Ohio. So it will also be that. And anybody who want to have a conversation with me, because it's a meet and greet. So it's an opportunity for brothers and sisters if they just want to talk to me, tell me how much they don't like me, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? It's an opportunity for us to interact, but I will be back for the lecture once the COVID clears up.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Umar. Thank you for that. Now to the Capitol. Let's talk about that because I've really been wanting to get your insight on that.
I believe that was a planned stunt. And I believe it was done on purpose to test the American public's reaction to a potential invasion of the Capitol or martial law takeover by the National Security Administration. They wanted to see how people would react, and I think it could be used later as an excuse. And this is what I mean by that. God forbid, if something was supposed to happen cataclysmically to affect Black people, let's say there was a racial incident where a lot of our people were harmed, and I pray this doesn't happen. The government can always say to Black people, you saw what happened at the Capitol. Don't blame us. Don't say that we ignored the threat and let y'all get hurt. Because you saw at the Capitol, we were not able to repel the insurgents who rushed the Capitol. In other words, it becomes an alibi. It becomes an alibi. When something happens to Black people, the government can say these things do happen and you shouldn't always expect us to be able to handle them successfully. I believe it was a test run for martial law.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. So we need to be on the lookout. We need to get ready.
We need to be on the lookout. We need to be organized. We need to be ready.
And how do you feel about Black people being armed? How do you feel about
I think we should be.
Okay.
I think we should be because we are living in very dangerous times. And for all those Black folk out there who are screaming multiculturalism, they need to wake up and really smell the coffee. You have no friends in this country. You don't have none. You can't name me an ethnic group that has ever put their life on the line systematically for Black people. Name me one. You can't. Nobody comes to America to help Black people. They come to America to replace Black people. Let me say it again. Nobody comes to America to join in with the Black struggle. They come in to replace the Black struggle. Every immigrant group that has ever come to America has been adversarial towards the Black man and woman. Everyone. And they have been very, what do you want to call the word for it? They have been very domineering and dictatorial in how they deal with Blacks. They invade our economies. They invade our neighborhoods. They take over our civil rights. They never stand up for us. None of them do. So the fact that we're still pushing multiculturalism with a history that clearly shows we have no allies speaks to the self-hate and the need to be accepted by other people.
Okay, one last question. I promise I'm gonna let you go.
No, I'm good.
What is the most urgent need of Black America right now? What do we need to do now?
Economics.
The most urgent need.
Economics and education. Economics and education. The right foot and left foot of any renaissance of a people, revolution of a people, resurrection of a people, restoration of a people must begin with economics and education. We have to teach the children how to lead. We have to teach the children how to defend. We have to teach the children how to think. We got to teach the children how to build. And for African people who have been inflicted with a 4 centuries old self-hatred disease, we have to teach our children how to cooperate and work together. So you need education so you can instill in the children the honor and obligation they need to protect the red, black, and green. That's the education. But then you need the economics for the adults. Until we can employ each other, we will never get the unity that we need. Until we can put Black men and Black women to work, we will never get the loyalty that we need. See, economics is not just about money. It's not just about paying your bills. It's not just about taking care of your children. Economics is about loyalty. Economics is about community unity. You know why? Because if you can hire me, I'm going to be loyal. If you can give me a house, I'm going to be proud to be Black. If you can educate my kids, I'm going to be proud to be Black. The problem with Black America is we do not give our people reasons to want to be loyal. The Latino kid has reasons to be loyal. The Jewish kid has reasons to be loyal. The Irish kid, the Chinese kid, the Indian kid, they have reasons to be loyal. Black America does not reward our people. We do not give opportunities to our people. Do you realize we're the only people who doesn't have a system to employ their own people? Every other ethnic group has a system to employ their own people. When we need a job, we have to go outside the community. When we need food, we got to go outside the community. When we need clothing, we got to go outside the community. When we need shelter, we got to go outside the community. As long as we have to go and beg our oppressors for our essential needs, we will never be loyal to the Black community.
Wow, awesome. Dr. Umar, thank you so much. I want to thank you for always, when you come to Louisville, checking in with me, being a guest on my show, educate my audience. We really appreciate you, brother. And no matter how much criticism you get, brother, please keep on teaching us. All right, we need it.
This absolutely. You see right now, always way more love than the critics anyway.
Black excellence, brothers. What I see when I see
absolutely.
You, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And my wife is also an educator. All right,
she's powerful.
She is the Kentucky Elementary School Teacher of the Year for 2019.
Man, congratulations. Okay,
and she loves you too. All right, she loves your memes. Have you seen the memes out there about you? She loves watching those.
It's so many of them.
Though. It's not bad memes. It's good.
Positive.
It's positive ones. Yeah, keep people in check. Yeah, so she loves those. So from one educator to another, she says hello. All right, and we can't wait to see you when you come to Louisville.
Forward to it.
The 24th, right?
Yes, sir.
One more time, that location.
Rooftop Grill.
Yes.
414 Oak Street.
Okay. Anything you want to say in closing?
In closing, I just want to tell the people to keep on supporting the FDMG Academy. Hit your Cash App, $ FDMG School. Hit your PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. If all goes well, my brother, we may have the Honorable Marcus Garvey Elementary School and the Nat Turner Jean-Jacques Dessalines Gymnasium ready for August, which we will be hosting our first annual Unapologetically African Family First Festival. So that's what we're pushing towards right now, a Black August, Black Garvey, and we're going to have a grand opening, ribbon cutting celebration and conference at the FDMG Academy. Wilmington, Delaware. Book your flights to Philadelphia. The school is only 30 minutes from the Philadelphia airport.
Dr. Umar, I love you. All right. Love you, brother. Thank you so much. Luke, can't wait to see you. All right.
Yes, sir.
In a couple of weeks, bro. Thank you so much. All right.
Black Power.
Thank you. Hey, we can leave with the best of, okay? This is the best of you, all right?
Yes,
best of your outtakes. All right, here we go.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all. The Turn Up Show, not the Turn Up Show, Real Talk with T-Made, y'all. Wrong show. Real Talk with T-Made. This is the best of Dr. Umar. We want to thank Dr. Umar for being a guest on our show. We're watching on our way out. Salute y'all. We'll be right back on the other side. Thank you, Dr. Umar. Thank you.
I built the whole plan. I ain't going nowhere. But I appreciate the concern, my beautiful African queen. I hope your hair is natural.
You're not natural, baby. I see you got that perm in there. I still love you. You're gorgeous, but you're not nappy. You got to be nappy, baby. You got to be nappy. If I can't grab it, I can't have it.
It only takes a little bit of white brainwash to activate the coon chip.
Heterosexual couples only. This is not a government-funded activity. I have the right to discriminate. Heterosexual couples only.
Donations, gifts.
Need all the hundreds and fifties, let's get it. I'm with the shit, so let's get it. Killing it, leaving that body, no medics. Like I'm Lenny Kravitz.
We're going to have a national Coons Conference at FDMG. Yes, brothers and sisters, we have to have a national Coons Conference.
Anybody who tells you they're running for office to help somebody, smack their ass in the face.
What you want to do? You want to box, nigga? You want to street rumble, or you want to get into the intellectual boxing ring?
Tyler Perry. Goddamn, brother. Can we please consider some other movies?
And I know that you probably have access to check out.
I have a naughty picture from one of my sisters. It's gorgeous, but she's naughty. Cut it out.
With all this fake hair, like y'all so beautiful, are you addicted to the weave? Are you addicted to the perm?
Okay, that's from our brother, Dr. Umar Johnson. Just giving y'all a little bit of his funny, y'all. He's so serious, but he does got a comedic side to him. I want to thank that brother for all the work that he does in our community and just educating us on what it really truly is to be an African, and just his knowledge, his perspective, and his wisdom. It's appreciated. So I always want to thank that brother for being on the platform.